Hello, everyone. This is Ben Gerber and Tom Holder, and it's our weekly talk where we go over issues in the law and how they relate to workers' compensation. And as many of you have seen, the Boy Scouts have recently filed bankruptcy because they have so many lawsuits pending against them. And today we'll talk about how bankruptcy affects workers' compensation cases. And Tom, I think the first thing we should talk about is what happens if an individual who is either receiving workers' compensation benefits or before they receive workers' compensation benefits files for bankruptcy.
Well, thank you, Ben. This is a topic that unfortunately comes up more than we like to see in workers' comp. If somebody has filed for bankruptcy prior to their workers' compensation case, once they file, I don't think it really has an impact on the case, but it's certainly a situation where you want to make sure to let your bankruptcy lawyer know that you are going to file a workers' compensation case, and also let us know who that person is so that we can talk to the bankruptcy lawyer and find out if there's any kind of documentation or anything that we need to file. Very often we'll have to file our fee contract, and if we settle the case, it has to be approved by the bankruptcy court. I would also say that that's true in the situation where a person on workers' comp finds that they need to file for bankruptcy. As we know, for people who are especially who are on workers' compensation for an extended period of time, it's very difficult for them to maintain the lifestyle that they had prior to their case. If that happens and they unfortunately have to file bankruptcy again, we need to be in touch with the bankruptcy lawyer. There's a lot of times documents that have to be filed. And I think that it's important to know a bankruptcy lawyer who will handle this situation correctly. We of course would like it if one of our clients had to go bankrupt, that they would ask us for a referral to a bankruptcy lawyer, because we tend to know the lawyers who understand the interface of workers' comp and bankruptcy, and also lawyers that we can work with to make sure that the client's cases can be handled in an effective and timely manner.
Yeah,
I've seen some cases where it hasn't been the case, and it's been very problematic.
yeah, the maximum benefit you can receive in the state of Georgia in a workers' compensation case is $675 per week. So if an individual was earning upwards of $1,000 or more, typically they're going to have a reduction in their weekly wages, which may make it very difficult for them to make their bills. Now, the
Yes, I mean, even if you're getting 25% less than you were generally taking home, I mean, you might be able to, stick with your lifestyle through 3 or 6 months or something like that, but it will eventually eat away at your finances, and it creates a lot of problems.
and just one last thing on this topic, there is no cost of living increase when it comes to workers' compensation. And your workers' compensation rate is locked in at the time of your accident. So even if the goods and services go up in cost, your workers' comp does not. So your dollar goes less and less each year. Uh, the
That
second
is correct.
area I want to talk about, Tom, when it comes to bankruptcy is, and it's a question that many people have for us, is what happens if my employer either goes bankrupt or goes out of business during my workers' compensation case?
Well, fortunately, for our clients, a company going out of business should really not have an effect on the workers' compensation case at all. And the reason for that is because, just like in an automobile accident case, once the workers' comp case is filed, we're really dealing with the insurance company. And just like a situation where if I hit you in a car accident and the next day my insurance gets canceled, you still have insurance as of the date of the injury. And in a case like this, you'd have workers' comp as of the date of the injury, and no matter what happened to the company, your case would continue. As we were discussing previously, one thing that could actually be a positive from a workers' comp standpoint is if the company goes out of business, they will not have the opportunity to bring you back onto work on a light duty job status. So you might be able to continue getting benefits for a longer period of time and have a case that has more value than you might if the company actually was still in business.
And the last question in this topic that I think scares a lot of people, but shouldn't, and you'll explain why, is what happens if the insurance company declares bankruptcy during my case?
Well, unfortunately, that does happen from time to time, that insurance companies go bankrupt. And any practitioner who's practiced for any length of time will have had situations in which an insurance company will go bankrupt. The state of Georgia has what's called the insolvency pool. And the insolvency pool provides a state-run backstop for insurance companies for exactly that type of situation. Now, if an insurance company goes bankrupt and the case does go to the insolvency pool, it does become a little bit more complicated, and you definitely need to have a lawyer in that case. It shouldn't be that different, but it's different enough that you will need some help in navigating the insolvency pool rules and what happens to settle a case with the insolvency pool and other items of that nature. So if you are representing yourself in a workers' comp case and your insurance company goes bankrupt, I would definitely recommend that you get an attorney at that time, because there are going to be some things that will go on that will be a little bit different than previously.
But the bottom line is that the state of Georgia, as you said, has a backstop. So you will continue to receive indemnity benefits and medical treatment for your workers' compensation injury.
That is correct.
Now, Tom, you had a very interesting case recently involving this exact scenario.
Yeah, a few years ago, I had a case of a husband and wife truck driving team they lived in the state of Washington. They were driving out of a terminal in Georgia, and they flipped their truck over in Arkansas. And unfortunately, during the pendency of the case, both the company and the insurance company went bankrupt. And it just took a long time to track down what government agencies we had to work with, out of which state we had to work with, because the company was not incorporated in Georgia. And there was just extra work that took place to get that all figured out. But in the end, we were able to settle the case exactly the same as we would have if the companies had stayed in business.
So the bottom line when it comes to bankruptcy and workers' compensation is talk to an attorney. It should not have an effect on your workers' compensation case, but just in case it might, please contact an attorney and they can advise you with regards to both workers' compensation or even help you find a bankruptcy attorney who deals with workers' compensation. Thanks a lot, Tom.
Thank you.